Welcome, everybody, to the Belt Barber podcast, the first and only podcast about entrepreneurship for barbers and beauty professional. This podcast is sponsored by Invictus Podcast Studios. Before we start, can you guys follow me, Tico Invictus, on Instagram? And we have here someone very interesting, Coach Mike. We're going to be talking about coaching and how this coaching thing can help you, how and some insights. We're going to discuss a lot of information. We have here Coach Michael. Can you introduce yourself and just share with us what you do and how that is important in our lives?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, Tico. Hello, the audience today. My name is Coach Michael, otherwise known Michael Dill. I own a Action Coach franchise. Action Coach is a coaching company, largest in the world, 86 countries, 28 years old. We'll actually be celebrating our 28th anniversary, the end of the month in Maui.
Amazing, congrats.
Of which I'm looking forward to 8 days in Maui, yes. But coaching is very simply, Tico, no one can do it alone. Some of us think we can, but we really can't because we have the blinders on and we can only see so far. And as what we're looking at is 20% of the equation. And a coach will be able to see the 80% that we're not seeing and then challenge you with some questions and get you looking at yourself differently, your business differently, the outside parameters differently, and able to give you the strategies, solutions, and systems to get that business going to the next level.
Oh, amazing. Most of the time in my life, I didn't understand how someone, a mentor or a coach or a workshop can help us, In challenging times of my life, once I understood how important that was, I always hired someone and stay close to someone, even if it's far away, like on one of those platforms, YouTube, Instagram. For me, it's very important when I'm passing through a challenge time, looking for someone with the knowledge, with experience to help me at the moment. So people have that misconcept of coaching, especially in my country, Brazil. I don't know if it's the same here in the United States. They have that misconception that coaching, I don't know. What do you have to say about it?
I think it comes down to the individual. We have to be open. We have to take our guard down and be open to. The only way we can receive value is we have to be ready to receive it. If the individual isn't ready to receive the value, the coach could be the greatest coach in the world and give them all the advice in the world, but it's not going to be received, so they're not going to be able to take advantage of it. So those of us who realize that, and don't get me wrong, coaching is not to take a broken business and fix it. Coaching is for somebody who really wants to go to the next level, but realizes he or she cannot do it alone, and is looking for that mentor that's been where they're going, has been through the hardships, been through the adversities, and done what it takes to build a successful practice and a successful business, and also has coaches and understands the value of being coached so they can also coach others to get their best.
Me, my wife, are always updating ourselves. That's how we call, right? We went to Tony Robbins once, the one that you know, the one that you mentioned on your book. And we took a friend with us, right? We bring a friend with us. Our mind was open and our heart was open. We learned, we take advantage, bring it back a lot of anything that could help us to grow. And that person was locked. His mind was very like this, and he couldn't absorb what we could. So that's what you're just saying, right?
Yeah, you have to be ready for it. You got to be open. Some people think they can do it themselves. There's certain type of demographics of personalities and behaviors that are open, and there's certain type of personalities and behavior that are closed. They think everything has to be perfect. No one can do it their way. No one can do it better than them. And those are the ones that are going to be most likely closed. However, every once in a while, one of those individuals might have some tremendous adversity, and then they might open up a little bit more. And that's where I really think where we open up. When we as individuals hit some type of adversity and get knocked down a little bit, and then we begin to take our guard down and realize, whoa, this is a little bit difficult taking this road alone. Because we all need the right people on our team, the right people around us to guide us, to mentor us. And the bottom line, you can't do it alone. And those who are open to it, it's time to rock and roll and go to the next level.
if the person has this closed mindset at the time, can you still help, or you would say, hey, listen, this is not the right time for me to be your coach? What will you do?
There's a great quote, and that's a great question that I live by. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear. The teacher is always available, but the student isn't always ready. We as children, we as adults hear the same thing over and over and over again. Then all of a sudden one day it's like, oh my God, that makes so much sense.
Yes.
And how come we didn't see or hear that before? We simply weren't ready for it.
This happened to me yesterday watching a video. So my friend sent this video on YouTube maybe 4 years ago, and I wasn't ready for that video. And then I didn't like the video. I couldn't watch until the end, and I couldn't understand the message. So yesterday I was watching an interview from the same person from that video, and then it clicked like, oh, see, it all makes sense now, because now is the time that I am ready. And then Tico said, why don't you send this video to this friend? And I said, because she's not ready.
Yep.
If I send, it's not going to work. It's not her time yet. Because years ago, it wasn't my time. It's interesting, right? So would you say we can all work together now, maybe in the future, to not waste your time and not waste the client's time and avoid frustration? Would you turn away like, no, not now?
Oh, yes, absolutely. I'm pretty clear. People have to earn the right to work with me. I know what type of results my clients get when they're open and ready to rock and roll. So there's certain things. I never say people are hired or fired. I never say you gain a client or lose a client. People either qualify or they disqualify. When you're clear on who you want to work with, what type of character, what type of behavior, the people that you can truly make successful and get them to the next level, you're very aware of how those people show up. And when they show up, I say, okay, let's rock and roll, because you're the perfect client for me. We can make some serious stuff happen. But if they're closed, I can also see that, and there'll be certain things I'll ask them to do, of which they'll need to do to earn the right to get to the next step. And usually they just disqualify themselves from the equation. They say things or do things or don't do things that says they're just not ready.
So that's your role. What are the role of the coach?
Role of the coach, once you have a client, is just to be that one person that is willing to challenge that person with questions and going where you need to go. I always ask my clients for permission. And do I have permission to be who I need to be, to get you to go where I need to go, to get you to see what you need to see, to take the action you need to take to get you what you want? When they say yes, I say, okay, let's go. So they have officially given me permission. Louis, sometimes they may enjoy the conversation, sometimes they may not. Because our business is a direct reflection of us, who we are, how we grow. And if we're not willing to be challenged and go outside our comfort zone, we're not going to grow. And you need somebody that has the willingness and the fortitude to ask the tough questions.
Knowledge.
Yes, ask the questions when they need to be asked, to get people to look in the mirror and say, oh my God, why am I doing that? I don't know.
You have to ask the difficult questions that sometimes other people don't have the courage, right?
Absolutely,
And the
no
good
question.
thing is you're paid for that. You're paid to help people to look at themselves in the mirror, to look things that they couldn't see about themselves. That must be very fulfilling to do that, to work as a coach.
Yes, and I'm not going anywhere with them that my coaches haven't gone with me, or I'm not going asking them to do anything that I haven't done myself. Coaching, and this is really interesting. There's a lot of coaches out there, life coaches and so on and so forth. Congruency is the key. There's a lot of coaching practices that coaches work for that organization. They don't necessarily own their own company. And this is only my opinion, but I always ask somebody, I said, how can somebody who works for somebody else and doesn't go through the hardships and adversity of entrepreneurship coach you on how to be an entrepreneur and get through that adversity? So you have to have somebody that's been there, done that, can guide you accordingly when the times get tough and you're questioning your ability and you have disbelief in yourself and what you can do. Someone that believes in you and sees more in you than you see in yourself. And then when you catch up to that vision and grow into it, boom, that's when it happens.
I agree with you when you said that you have to go through. I've always heard from other people, like coach, people that are above me in teaching others and mentors. They always say there's no anniversary to be an entrepreneur. You have to go through the challenges. You have to learn from, overcome them. And that, I think that is the beautiful thing about coaching. If you go through it, now you know it, and then you can pass it on.
Help other people, right? To go
To
and
go.
overcome the difficulties because you've been there too. I wouldn't listen to someone that never had to go through, because how are you going to teach me how to do something if you've never been through that,
No, absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Is that a difference, helping and teaching and helping people as an individual and a business person, different levels?
Well, here's something interesting. When I was a new coach, of course, I was intimidated by much larger CEOs of much larger organizations. It's natural for everybody. And my coach said, they're just another human being. Who do they get to vent to? A CEO of an organization doesn't have the ability to go out and vent to their team. They have to vent up. For us leaders, entrepreneurs, we vent up. We vent up to our coach. We get whatever we need to get out with our coach so we can go be back on our A game. So when we're in front of our team and we're talking to our clients, boom, we're dialed in. And that's where a coach becomes effective. That when I have a coaching call with my coach, I know exactly where I want to go, and they'll take me there. So when you begin to learn how to leverage your coach to filter out the stuff and ask the questions you need to have and address the challenges you're having, each and every conversation you're tweaking and getting a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better. It's almost like when you have a child and you don't notice how they're growing, and then auntie or uncle comes on and say, oh my God, look how big they've grown. So that's what coaching is. You don't notice day by day because you're doing all the little things to get better. Then 6 months, 12 months, you look back like, oh my God, I'm doing things now that I fought before that I wouldn't go. And you just progressively and naturally grow into the person you need to be the entrepreneur and successful business owner.
All the little results become a big thing, right? Big
Oh,
results.
absolutely.
Slowly.
It's like going to the gym. It's not like you go to the gym one day and you look in the mirror the next day and say, oh, right, I look great. No, you got to go every day, a little bit at a
beat
time.
your body, right? So what is the difference educating someone in person that has no business? Do you do that? Like separate as an individual?
No.
Oh, just business.
Business owners, I coach business owners, CEOs, teams.
But everything comes to people, right?
Oh,
Everything
it's
comes
all
to
people. It's all comes down to
It's not about
people.
the business. Yeah.
Well, the business is a direct reflection of you, both good and bad. And that's the key. When the owner of the business realizes everything good and bad in their business is because of them, boom.
Our actions.
When they get that, that's when they make a big difference. Now, if they don't take ownership, my team is this, my team is that, the economy is this, the economy is that, and they're not looking in the mirror, they're going to be stuck. You have to look in the mirror, because the only thing that can change, the only thing we can change is us. And then everybody else will change around us, because we become the magnet, the beacon of light, and they see the energy, they see that we're investing in ourselves, and they're willing to do the same.
Take accountability, responsibility, and then the consequences also. So, give me some example as a business that is now is successful, business that are growing because you. Some examples, or someone that fell after. I don't know if you coach them. Not fell, but they didn't took it for real. They didn't took seriously.
Well, I've had a lot of successful clients, and I work with some successful clients. My first real success was a gentleman named Matt Jorgensen. He runs a company called Foundation Flooring. He's right here in Pompano Beach. And what was interesting, we sat down one day, and he says, hey, Coach, so who would be a great client for you? I'm like, you would. He goes, me? Why? I gave him all the reasons. I said, you're young. You don't want to be average. You want to go be really good at what you do. You want to build a great team. And if I'm wrong on any of this, just tell me. He goes, no. I want to be all that. I said, I'm convinced you take everything that I give you and take it to the next level. We worked 3 years together. First year working together, he finally broke a certain number that he never broke in revenues in his business, became a great leader, was Young Entrepreneur of the Year, now has a portfolio of, I think, 6 or 7 houses that he rents out and has somebody else watch him to building his passive income strategy. And we just had a blast. And the biggest reward I got was when wife was pregnant with the first child, he called me before he called his parents.
Whoa, wow. That's powerful.
And that hit me. And
wow.
He's very successful. We have a great relationship, and that was a journey together that it was just absolutely positively awesome because people would come up and said, "I don't know what you did with my son, but thank you." I'm like, "No, he did the work. I just guided him."
That's what happened with me. I'm an educator also. I help people with barbers that are experiencing. I teach people from scratch how to cut hair. And that's my biggest reward, to see their smile. Sometimes they call me and thank me. There's no money can pay that. you
Right.
know?
What do you see as a pattern of people that have success? Like patterns in their behavior and personalities that you always see the same thing. Like people with this characteristic, they usually succeed.
That's a great question. It's different with a lot of different people. I think the vision of where they want to go. They see themselves as being successful. They see that they want bigger. They see that they want to make an impact in their industry, on their teams. And they're clear on whether it's 5, 10, 20 years down the road, I want my company to be this big. I want to be known like this. I want to be in this many areas. And you get in that destination mastery really clear so you can paint the picture and then work backwards. Because if you don't have a vision of where you want to go, how the heck are you going to get there? You're just going to be clocking in day to day and then attempting to have your team follow you when you're not sure where you're going. That's a difficult mission. But the folks that really are clear and want to do something big with themselves in their lives and make an impact and a legacy for themselves, their family, their community, those are the ones that they're not making it about them. They're making it about others, and that's the mission. It's easy to keep motivated day in and day out to make happen.
Even if it comes the challenge moments, they go through it, they overcome, and then go through, right?
Yeah, it's just like another hurdle. Okay, we need to get by this. It's just, and embrace the challenges as an opportunity to grow and get better, instead of avoiding the challenges as an adversity that I don't want to go there. That's tough. No, that's where the growth is. When you face them head on and embrace them, and that's where you grow and get better. You look back, say, all right, and it's like a little tipping point that you grow in that place of adversity, and it takes you to the next level.
How can a coach help people that have these beliefs that they can't, this negative belief about themselves? How do you change that?
Their thinking and their words. I challenge them on that alone. When I talk to somebody, I say, "Oh, I can't do that," or I'll try to do that. I said, "What do you mean try?" I said, "There is no try. You either do it or you don't." I said, "Pick up that pen. Try to pick up that pen." And they just pick it up. I said, "Did you try or did you pick it up?" "Well, I picked it up." "Oh, so now you're clear that you either pick it up or you don't pick it up." There is no try. There's escape words. If you ask me, say, "Hey, Mike, can you get that done?" I say, "I'll try." How are you going to feel? Like, is he going to get it done? Is he not going to get it done? He didn't really sound too confident. People buy confidence. And the most important conversation we have is the conversation we have with ourselves. So if you're speaking in negative terms and disbelief terms, you're not going to be positive. So the first thing I pick up on is if they're thinking and their words and change their thinking and their wording to start, like, instead of, well, if I become successful, I mean when. If I build a good team, as I build a good team, I change their wording, and their wording, they're programming their mind differently. They start thinking differently, and slowly but surely they start getting different results.
I heard a story from a guest here, not for our podcast, and it was really interesting because he failed really bad. He had a business, and then at the end he was in debt, like millions, and it was crazy. And then his mom, instead of putting him down, she was like, "Okay, my son, it's fine. You failed. You
Let's
can
do
do
it
it
again."
again." And then she actually told him to start again, to start a new business, even though he was in debt, everything was falling apart. And she's like, "No, you're no loser. You're going to do it again, and you're going to do it better." And this is so powerful, right? When someone, instead of putting you down,
She motivated him, right?
him, put him in the right mindset. You're not going to fail again because you learn. So
Right.
now you're going to succeed.
And she was getting him to embrace the failure as a
Yes.
learning process, as a stepping stone to the next step,
Yes.
instead of him looking at it as, oh, what's the use?
Yes. he was actually discouraged, like, no, I'm not gonna do this. And she was, you're gonna do it. But mom, I owe all this money. I failed so bad. I don't care. You're gonna do it again. And now you're not gonna fail because you learned.
Question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh,
No,
please.
something came to my mind. So, do you interview? I'm sorry, cut you off. Do you interview with clients before you start working with them?
Oh, absolutely, no question.
In what stage do you disqualify someone that is not interested? I mean, they looking for you.
Well,
Want-
they find me or I find them or they're introduced to me and we have a conversation over the phone usually or in person. And then I would have them fill out some information and it gets them thinking of where they are, where they want to go, what their challenges, what their opportunities are. And that alone, the amount of time it takes them to fill that out, whether they fill it out or not, begins the qualifying process. Like that gentleman, Matt, that was real successful, he came to a workshop of mine and he goes, okay, send me that questionnaire. I said, okay, great. When will I expect it filled out? Oh, probably next Monday or Tuesday. And I just looked at him and I said, Monday. You know when I had it? The workshop was Friday afternoon, Saturday morning. It was in my inbox.
Nice.
There's somebody who's serious. Now, if someone says, oh, I haven't got to it, I'm kind of busy, and they start telling me by their actions whether they're ready or not. And then once the questionnaire is filled out, we just eventually sit down for 90 minutes face-to-face, and I show all the different ways I work with my clients' results and go through their challenges and what they're good at and so on and so forth. I show them ways of how to get more clients, make more money. And at the end, if they're ready to rock and roll, let's go. But some of them don't even get that far.
I don't think there's no loss to identify yourself and see, now I need someone that knows more than me, that has more knowledge in this topic, in this challenge moment that I'm going through. There's no loss. You're always going to learn something. And the question is, when is the right time? So when is the right time? Because for me, the right time was I opened up the shop, the barber shop, Invictus, and me and my wife was always like, wow, we don't know what we're doing. We need to find the one person right now at this moment that can help us. I don't know if it's in marketing, finance, or whatever. And we always done that. So that's why we grew so much. So many people are lost and they don't know what's the right time and when they need to be coached by someone, looking for a mentor, professor, whatever. When is the right time?
I think it's always the right time if you're willing to accept it. Like, let's face it, if you have someone guiding you in the process, I always say coaching is like putting Red Bull in your business. Everything good and bad is going to service a lot quicker. You're gonna get all the bad's going to show up. Let's address that. Let's get rid of that. Okay, let's rock and roll. Let's go to the next level. You will get to where you're going a lot quicker with a coach than you will on your own. It's just a fact. It's the way it is. So I tell people, like, everybody needs a coach. I said, yeah. When Tom Brady has a mechanics throwing coach. Really? A throwing mechanics coach? Come on, man. Are you kidding me? But that's why he's great. There's coaches for every different technique with athletes and business owners and such, but we just don't see that. We just see the person at the top raising their hands in victory and they're successful, like, oh, if I could just be like that. Yeah, well, just think of all the effort, time, energy, money they invested in themselves to get there. Are you willing to go that road? That's the real question. And I think a lot of people that don't accept coaching is, I never understood the fear of success. I always understood the fear of failure. I'm afraid to fail, I'm afraid to look bad, and blah, blah, blah. I said, how could there be a fear of success? That's ridiculous. More money, more prestige, more success. And I realized that success, you have to build in a standard of excellence and then show up that way every day. And that to some people is just downright intimidating. And so I think a lot of people are fearful of success than they are fearful of failure, and that's why they don't get a coach. They're afraid they might not be able to own up, to do the work, to become the person they truly have the capability of being.
Some people are not successful because they choose not to be, right? You believe that too?
Absolutely. success is a choice. Life is a choice. I mean, we can choose to wake up in the morning and drink every moment of this day full and be our best, or we can wake up and turn on the news and say, "Oh my God, the world's terrible, and this is terrible, and that's terrible," and go bitch and complain about your team.
And also, life is difficult for every single person on the planet. You know, it's life not easier for me or easier for you because I became successful. You're not. Life is hard. You know.
Yeah, you know, what's interesting is my first year in business as a coach, 7 months in, I went to a workshop. You know, it was a whole bunch of coaches. We were working on a 90-day plan. I'm all jacked up, all juiced up. I have a whole bunch of appointments scheduled. It's in Orlando. I have dinner with my daughter. And
I want to see the picture when you all juiced up.
Yeah, I'm
to prove. No, just kidding.
and I'm ready to rock and roll the next day, hanging out with a bunch of coaches working on a plan. And my phone rang 11:30 that night. My wife goes, "Why aren't you answering the phone?" I'm like, "Sleeping." And she goes, "Well, your brother just committed suicide."
Oh.
And then talk about an emotional shift. So I went to the workshop the next day because I was in shock, and
That
I just
is in
wanted to
here,
hang
right?
out. Yeah, wanted to hang out with some like-minded people for quite a while, and I knew I would break at some point. I did around lunch. I broke, and I drove home, buried my brother, and I came back, and I felt like out of sight, out of mind. You know, family's up in Rhode Island. I'm in Florida. What's the difference? I don't see them every day anyways. And within 3 months, I went from 7 clients to 1. I had the amazing shrinking bank account, and I was an absolute positive mess. And I got a coach. And that coach dug me out of the grave, and we got back to the top. I was up on stage 2.5 years later. My business is successful. And that was a learning experience that I think God put my way because it made me a much better coach. I have the empathy to know what things people go through. I was actually sitting with a couple, and they were looking at me like there's no way I can understand them and relate. And I said, "Would it be okay if I shared my story?" And when I was done, I told them, I said, "I am the right person to coach you. Anything you've gone through, been through, or going through, I've been there, done that. You need somebody that's been and scratched and clawed to get to the top to coach you, because that's what it's all about." And they said, "Okay, let's go." So when people understand that you've been through what they may go through, they know, okay, you're the guide. You can help me.
We've been at the beginning when we opened our business. We found this mentor because we gone through with him. We learned, we grew, and once he had a meeting at our shop, and we invited a lot of business owners to attend to that meeting. You know, it was like a little seminar. And I asked this guy to come. I offered him to come. And first thing he asked, does he has a business? Did he ever?
He was trying to see, like, okay, he's not a coach. He has a program for business owners. But then Tico invited a friend, and the friend said, the guy talking, does he have a business? How he gonna coach me? How he gonna tell me what to do?
That's exactly what you're saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, do you know why I do business with you? You know why I get my hair cut and at Victus?
Why?
I was seeing somebody else that was cheaper. But it's your entrepreneurial spirit.
Wow,
Your
thank
business owners. I said, I like these folks. They're business owners. They want more. They want to create a team. They want to do things right. They want to invest in themselves. And I want to be aligned with people that are doing it right and taking that journey to be entrepreneurs.
How long you been going to Invictus?
I'm not sure exactly. Probably since you've been open.
Yeah, 5 years, I think. We went to one of your meetings, right? Your seminar in Boca. That was a big change for us. Many things that you told, many things that you teach, we learned a lot.
You went by yourself, babe. I didn't go.
Oh, you didn't go that day, right?
No.
Oh, okay. It was my... No, you did.
No.
Oh,
I
you
didn't.
couldn't go
Yeah.
because it was on Saturday. You had to stay at the reception.
Yeah. You went by yourself.
It was on a Friday. I don't do workshops on a Saturday.
Oh, Saturday. Could be.
You
It was
have
5
that?
years ago, so 3 years. I don't know. And what are the most necessity you see in people when they are looking for you to coach them? Like top three.
Top three: team, time, or money. Team, like my largest client, we did a team day 4 years ago when we started working together, and it was 12 people. We just did one 2 weeks ago that was 37.
Wow.
And that 37 only represents the leadership personnel in the organization. I coached the two partners and all the leadership. So that growth, that comes down to team. They needed help with the team because we've bought 3 companies together. So they've gone from 3 companies to 6 companies, the integration of all these new personnels, the old with the new, their way of doing things with a new way of doing things, aligning everybody. So having somebody like that, and especially they leverage me to speak to all the leadership personnel. I have coaching calls with them. So I get to filter things in with these people. I can ask them questions that maybe the owners aren't willing to ask and go places they're not willing to go or don't necessarily know how to go there because that's not what they do. So that's a big piece of leverage. Time.
In the perspective, before you go into time, the perspective of the team when they heard from you a question is different when they heard from their boss too. What do you say?
Oh, absolutely, because I'm unbiased. There's no emotion attached in any conversation I'm having with anybody on a team because it's just the way it is. So I'm able, Jeff and John will ask me questions. Hey, could you go here with this person? I said, yeah, sure. How are you going to do it? I said, I think about it. I said, okay, I'll probably go this direction. They go, oh, my God, yeah, wow. And then they asked me how the call went. And I would tell them, I go, wow, how do you figure that out? I said, it's just being authentic. When you put yourself in a place of wanting the other person to get better, and I always ask for permission. I say, Tico, do I have your permission to speak freely? And when they say yes, I just speak freely. And by asking permission, they take their guard down and open up, knowing that they're going to receive value from the conversation, whether they might like the conversation or
Did
not.
anybody say no, or like they were like confused to say yes?
No, nobody says no.
Interesting.
And that's a thing I teach a lot of my leaders that have organizations. Before you go into a conversation with somebody on your team, if it's going to be deep, ask for permission if I can speak freely.
I like that.
And then they take their guard down, and now you could have the conversation. But if you just go into a conversation without asking, and they might not be ready to receive it, might not be too valuable.
When you're a coach, you study a lot of psychology, right? To use the right tools. It's attached to
Talk
psychology.
about the right questions.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. You mentioned Tony Robbins, and I did Tony Robbins 30 years ago the first time. And that started my self-improvement, and I started reading a lot of books. So we've become a culmination of all the books, the websites, the webinars, the conferences we go to, when you read biographies of certain people, and you just begin to pick up and you test and measure what works, what doesn't work. I asked a question and didn't quite get the response I thought was valuable, so I'll ask the question a different way the next time. So it's always consistently testing and measuring everything we do, and you begin to find things that work. And then you begin to understand the different personalities and how to approach them. I could approach one person not like I can approach another. Someone who's closed-minded and analytical, I'm going to have to approach them much different way than I would approach somebody who's open and has no problem in having a conversation and going wherever they need to go.
Yeah, I think when we have a business and we are in the leadership role, that's important to do what you just said. Understand how to talk to each individual differently, because we are different. We understand, we perceive the world different. So if you don't refine your communication, you can get results, right?
Absolutely.
And have you ever had, we're talking about happy stories like the customers you helped, but do you have stories that didn't go well, that you couldn't help the person and then it didn't work out, or you had to quote fire a client?
This person was just a stubborn.
We fire clients.
No, interesting. I did have a client that I fired several, but I had one in particular that there's a certain thing we talk about: ownership, accountability, responsibility is above the point. Below the point is blame, excuses, denial. And I sent it to him. I said, the majority of my clients, they post it on their wall because they want to show their team and everybody that they're taking ownership, accountability, responsibility. It shows them as the leader. So people immediately see that when they ask about it. What's that? And the owner will tell them. It just puts them up a few notches because, like, wow, my business owner, my leader's investing in themselves. And I asked him about it. I said, you put it on the wall? He goes, no. I said, how come? He goes, I didn't like it. I said, huh, how come? Well, I didn't like it. I said, really? He goes, I don't know if this coaching thing's going to work either. I'm like, Huh, interesting. I said, you know something? You might want to ask yourself why a father to children, a husband to a wife, a leader to his team, a partner to his purveyors, and a purveyor to his clients would not want to display to everybody that you're willing to take complete 100% ownership, accountability, and responsibility. When you realize why you can't take that and own it, you'll realize why you're not going to get to or you're not where you would like to be. Based on this conversation, our relationship is done. I'm going to refund you the money. And by the way, the workbook I gave you, I'm going to have my son drop by and pick it up because I would wager to bet you didn't even open it. And that was it. And he goes, "You're firing me?" I said, "Absolutely, I'm firing you.
How did he react? Did he try to like, no, let's talk?
No,
or he's like, okay, whatever.
He couldn't believe I was firing him.
Wow.
And he gave the workbook to his team, and the team delivered the workbook to my son.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Do you notice when you are interview like a sociopath or narcissist, what you do if you ever interview someone like that?
Probably wouldn't even get to face. I could pick that stuff off on the first call.
Amazing. That's
On
why I
the phone.
asked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Me and her, when we interview our collaborators, we can pick that up like very quick.
Yeah.
There's some red flags.
And again, it's the fear of success. They don't want to sit down and see where they're failing and where they're not willing to go. They might want to focus on all the negative stuff in the world instead of the positive.
Correct.
And they just don't want to own it. That's fine. Have at it.
Yeah.
Just
That's
not
a
with me.
psychological illness too, right?
Yeah, like I said, the words we use, how we think, what we focus on, that's what we're going to get in life. So might as well focus on the good stuff.
You mentioned something about the team seeing when the owner is growing, is looking to be a better leader. And it happened to us that our team, especially the ones that have been with us for a while, recently we're doing like a process of consultant. We have 2 people helping us. We're always having people helping us, guiding us, do this, do that, because they have an expertise that we don't. And we want to succeed, so we need help. And then they were interviewing our team, and we had no idea the impact, the positive impact that our willingness to look for guidance, to learn, and to improve ourselves had on them, because they really notice and they really appreciate and they can see that we are changing for better, we're growing, and they admire that. So I think if the owner of a business wants the business to be better, first they have to work on themselves instead of blaming the team. Oh, this guy doesn't do what he's supposed to do. But what is my role on that? I hired the person. I'm supposed to train the person, or I have to have someone in my team training that person. So instead of blaming the circumstances or the people, the team, take responsibility, take ownership. And this reflects so positive in the team.
Absolutely.
When you have someone helping you. They see
There's no
that
question.
you want to grow.
When we invest the number one investment is investing in ourselves. Forget the stock market and real estate and everything else. It's invest in yourself. How are you working on getting better? And how can an employee of an organization not admire a leader of an organization that is working on becoming their best and communicating well and doing whatever it takes, owning it? Because the owner's like a magnet. The team will move up and down with the magnet, the owner, or the company will grow with the owner. So work on being your best, and you can better communicate to your team and get the structure in place and the culture. You create the culture. There's a lot of cultures in organizations. Some are written, some are not. Some are developed, some are not. Some they like, some they don't. Because you want to create the culture so people will qualify to represent your brand and be part of that culture. And if they don't fit into the culture, all right,
Again,
no thank you.
Everything comes down to a reflection. Yeah.
Yes. How you expect your team to be nice and polite if you were not? If you treat them bad, they're going to treat each other bad. They're going to treat the customers bad. Every time I go to a business, it doesn't matter which business, restaurant, store, whatever, I notice how the employees behave, and I know if they are treated well or not by their manager and by the owner. It's easy to see.
No, it's easy for us to see because now we can see, but so many people they don't just see it. that, right?
Yeah,
Well, treat your team like they'll make a difference, and they will.
They will.
for sure.
The biggest link in a business is it's the owner takes care of the team takes care of the customer takes care of the business takes care of the owner. But the owner takes care of the team, make sure all the structures in place, the right culture, paid on time, everything that is necessary, having position agreements, roles, responsibilities, quarterly reviews. When the team feels good about themselves, they'll take care of the customer. Customer will be happy. They'll come back more often. They'll tell their friends. And the customer will take care of the business. And the business job is to take care of the owner, because that's why they went through all that effort, energy, and money to create the business, so they can create the wealth and abundance and freedom for themselves. But a lot of owners and leaders do not go directly to take care of the team,
that's the thing.
and that's where they miss it.
That's the thing. They don't think their team are the first client. The team, it is our first client. That's what we need to put our focus on, right?
Yes.
Yep.
How it?
Well, actually, our first client is ourselves.
Yes. Oh,
Number
good
one client is me. I take care of me first because it's study,
that.
it's learn, study, master, teach. I can't teach anything I haven't mastered and studied myself.
There was a saying, right, babe? A saying that before you stand up to teach, you had to be sitting down and learn from first.
Amen.
So what is the process when someone hire you in a company? What is the step by step? How is the
Well, once they
process?
hire me, we do an alignment. An alignment is where it's pretty much a personal, professional brain dump for the client. I give them a lot of different questions and a document. They'll sit down. I say, hey, listen, don't do it all at once. Sit by the pool, get a glass of wine, and just get it on your laptop and start answering the questions. And it forces them to think about things and transfer it from their brain to the paper. And once that's done, we go through it together. So I learn a ton about them in the process. I'm talking some pretty serious questions, their perceptions, where they want to be long term, their relationships, and so on. So it really gives me some tremendous insight to the client. Then we'll sit down for a few hours and go over everything. And then I'll take that and I'll put a game plan together. If there's any particular books they need to read, is there any particular systems we need to place in? So create an entire game plan. So now we have a business life document that they can refer to anytime. And I've given them the recommendations, and we just follow suit and start knocking them out. Some people need to be addressed in time management first, because if you don't manage your time efficiently and correctly, everything else falls through the cracks. Some people need to know their numbers first. So we need to get QuickBooks out and get the accountant and get through the numbers and dig deep and get them to learn. Some people might have a challenge with their team. So we get them aligned, get them clear, because a lot of people have a lot of stuff in their head, but it's not necessarily documented on paper. And then we just go where we need to go. And once we do the alignment, I know exactly where to go first.
How long it takes your process of coaching, or it varies depending on the need of the client?
I've had clients for a year. I've had clients for 7 years.
Got it.
Yeah, because if you truly want to get to the next level, you'll get to the next level, and it's like, okay,
What
what's
is the
next?
What is next? There's always next. It's a
Yes,
cycle.
there's always, as you grow. I mean, my client's gone from 3 companies to 6. There's more challenges because there's more behaviors, there's more personalities, there's more moving parts. You got the what's going on with the economy, with gas prices. They're paying twice as much now than they were 2 years ago. That's a big hamper on your margins and your bottom line. But yet all the employees are getting paid the same amount. People that you're doing business with don't necessarily want your prices to be raised. So there's a lot of different challenges. So people that understand that you need to have that confidant with you that you can filter the stuff through. And when you have a question, say, okay, coach, we're challenged on this. How can we get through it? So, okay, let's go there.
What happened with us, me and her, we feel when we need someone to help us. At the beginning of when we opened our business, at the first year, we sat down and we're like, wow, we're stuck. What is the next? What is the next step to take to grow, right, babe?
Yeah.
And every time there's a cycle. So now we have grown our business a lot in a huge percentage. And then there's always something to learn, something to span our minds and
We had
learn
different challenges over the years.
over the
Always.
years.
And then we look for help and guidance on the challenge that we're facing. Finances, we didn't know how to manage. Then people, and marketing, whatever. Then we look for people that knows better and they can teach us and put us in the right path.
Yeah,
Right,
I
right. Sorry.
also sit down with my clients when I do a balance sheet, personal balance sheet, because our balance sheet is a report card. When we went to school, we had a report card, and we'd be happy to go home and show our parents, or sometimes all of a sudden the report card happened to get lost, or we don't know where it is, based on the grades we have. Your balance sheet is your report card, and the balance sheet is the asset liability. It's the P&L, your own personal P&L. So I challenge clients in the beginning, so let's look at your P&L. And like I had one gentleman that was paying $3,500 a month in rent for a house. I said, why? I said, let me guess. You lost money on your home and you're divorced, didn't you? He goes, yes. So you have a negative association to own a home, don't you? Yes. Well, guess what? Because that negative association, you're taking $3,500 a month and taking it from your balance statement and putting it on somebody else's. Get a realtor, get a house. So within 6 months, he had a home. So now he just added an asset to his balance sheet. And now he's every month as he's paying the mortgage. And with certain clients, I'll just go through the balance sheet. I said, what's your number? What's the number you want to have when you retire? Because the business is a stepping stone to get us everything we want so we can do what we want, when we want, with who we want, whenever we want. So if you don't know your own personal balance sheet, what are you doing? Why are you waking up, hustling every day and going through all this to build an organization and take care of a team if you're not going to building your balance statement? So like I said, I'll go wherever I need to go to get my clients crystal clear on everything that needs to take place to get the full balance in life. I've had clients that I worked with a bodybuilder, he was a chiropractor, he was a former bodybuilder, and he hadn't been to the gym for 2 years.
Wow.
For whatever reason. And on the checklist, when he signed up, the last thing on the checklist was get your ass in the gym. And he sent me a picture that afternoon. He was on the treadmill in the gym. He goes, I'm back in my happy place. Okay. He told me, he goes, I can't believe that you had that on the checklist. I said, well, that's your happy place. That's where you need to be. Strong body, strong mind, then you can get to work.
Awesome.
Awesome. We experienced, not on that topic, but we experienced some turnovers at our shop. And we hired this company actually to help us with that. What do you have to say about turnovers in a company?
Well, again, people either qualify or not. I think it's one of the chapters in my book. When you are clear on your culture and the positioning when you sit down with people to hire them, your retention will be much better. But if you're just, when I was a new coach, I learned something that was just crazy. There's a company that's been around for over 85 years. I won't mention their name. And they have one of their facilities in Pompano Beach. And I'm thinking like, wow, I'm going to learn something here. A company's been around for 85 years. They're a pioneer in their industry. I'm going to learn some stuff. So I walked in to the place, and the manager was at the front desk. His feet were up on the desk, and he was on the phone and didn't even acknowledge me. I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And then I went into the special place of the facility, and I asked the girl who was running it, I said, so what's your qualifications to be in this area? You probably know a lot about this. Why don't you explain? She goes, well, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, whoa, sorry. And then I go to the sales guy out on the floor. I said, so this company's been around for 85 years. They're like a pioneer in the industry. So what made you want to represent their brand? Well, I needed a job. I'm like, whoa. What the heck? I walked out. I was confused. So my coach said, I told my coach the story. She goes, what are you going to do? I said, they've been around for 85 years. I've been a coach for a year. I mean, I can't call the owner of the company. He's super successful. She's like, why not? Yeah, and I come up with all the excuses. How is a coach that's been a coach for a year going to coach this person that's been around for 85 years? So I think it took me a month to get up the guts to make the call.
Wow.
And the person that I got a hold of was second in line because the first in line obviously has passed away.
Okay.
It's a family-owned business. And I told my experience. And know what he said? He says, Mike, I know this is the answer you want to hear, but sometimes you just got to fill a seat. I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? You got an 85-year-old company. You're a pioneer in the industry. You got a brand that's known worldwide. And sometimes your hiring process is filling a seat.
Whoa.
And there was silence. He's like, whoa. And he goes, perhaps we should do something. I said, yeah, perhaps. And unfortunately, it fell through because then the second line passed. And then I had to start communicating the third line, and it was filtered down. And the third line didn't really care because he was younger. But I was absolutely positively amazed how a company's been in business for 85 years, is a pioneer in a certain industry, and their hiring process was they had to fill a seat.
We don't do that at our shop.
No, of course not.
Man, why I'm saying that, because we have few turnovers in the past 2 months or 3. And we always trying to learn from that. And I rather to have my chair, the barber chair, open for someone else, but open for 6 months or a year, than just fill out a seat.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
You
when
know?
I opened I put the job posting for front desk, right? And then I have a couple questions. Why do you want to work for us? What do you know about our business? And the main answer I get is because I need a job. No, I don't want a person
Yep.
that needs a job.
Yep.
That's not the right answer. If you need a job, that's fine. You can find any job, but I don't want you working here because it's not going to work. If you
Nope.
just need a job, we can't work together. It's not
Absolutely.
just a job. It's your life. You're going to spend 8 hours here every day. You're going to spend more time here than at home. So you got to kind of like what you're doing, right?
Absolutely. Last week on my YouTube page, I did a video, and one of the statistics that I was alarmed at is, what do you think the percentage of people that went from one job to the other in the last 2 years during the pandemic that regret their decision is?
You mean changing jobs?
Yes. What percentage?
I think 70.
I think 85.
Because I see happening.
It was 72%. 72% of people that left one job to
You
the
hit
other
it.
in the last 2 years
He grabbed it.
regret it. And what's happening now, as I did the Great Resignation Part 2, and what's happening, and it's happening to one of my companies. They had a gentleman leave 3 months ago. He came back because the person on the other side promised a whole bunch of stuff and didn't deliver on the promise. Another gentleman brought a crew of 13 people. Why? Because the company was bought out by a hedge fund, and they started just looking at the bottom line and not the people. And he wanted to go in an organization that had culture and cared about the people. So you're going to begin to see the people that qualify, of course, shifting to organizations that have the culture right. So you're going to begin to see a shift the other way. So it always comes down to you either qualify or not. But the companies that have the right culture, you'll know, like you knew exactly, okay, doesn't fit.
Yes.
Or you'll have somebody and say, I've seen you I've watched your podcast. I've been coming here for years. I can see the culture. Everyone's happy when I come in here. I want to work for your organization. All right,
Yes.
let's go.
I have 2 examples of that you just mentioned about regretting. So I have a client that he changed jobs because then he got an opportunity to make more money, and they offer him things that his previous job wasn't offering. He didn't stay for like 2 months. He
Yep.
regretted so bad. And in our industry, I'll talk about barber industry. It happens a lot that one shop owner recruits the barber from the other shop because they see, oh, this barber is good. This barber has clients. Let me bring him to work in my team. But they make false promises, like, I'm going to give you this, I'm going to give you
Offer
that.
tons of money.
Offer more money,
Of course.
offer this, offer that. But at the end,
But they don't deliver.
they don't deliver.
Yeah.
And then the person quit the job, went to a new opportunity that was so good, but it's not really good.
Yeah, a lot of
It's
times my
happening.
clients tell me, I told them we can create this for them, we could do this for them. I said, why don't you just have them take the weekend and write down what
They
where
want.
they would like to be in your organization the next 1, 3, 5 years. See what they come up with, and then you'll know whether they fit in or not. And also, if they come up with a good plan, and this is where I'd like to be in 1, 3, 5 years, okay, let's make that happen. Let's work together. How can I help you?
What
Yes.
makes someone don't tell you why they're leaving? Because that happened with us. they didn't tell us exactly why they're leaving, because if they told
can't.
me, I could like work out something, to help them, and
They're afraid.
they're afraid, right?
They're just
Yeah.
afraid to have a conversation.
A lot of people. I
just
don't
af-
like to say that word, but a lot of people are cowards. They can't be honest.
Well,
They're
it's-
afraid of rejection. They're afraid of your reaction. I don't know. They
But
just can't.
I think that comes from experience before too. Sometimes.
Also, you
know?
were talking about communication before. And with all my clients, I use a behavioral assessment. There's I use the DISC. D is dominant. D's have no problem saying whatever's on their mind. I's are influencing. I's are great at sales, great at building relationships. S's are very reserved. They don't like going outside their comfort zone, and they don't like confrontation. And C's are very analytical. You just think of a CPA. So a high S will not tell you what's on their mind because they don't like going outside their comfort zone and they don't like confrontation. So they might be afraid the conversation might go in a way that they would have to go outside their comfort zone, so they just won't have it. And they'll just go somewhere else. High C's is very analytical. They're not people persons. They don't really know how to have a conversation. They'd rather be locked in a room with a computer and spreadsheets all day long. So when you begin to understand the demographics of the behavior you're dealing with, you'll know why. You'll know where they're willing to go and where they're not willing to go. And then my job is to coach them accordingly.
Do you have tips for hiring people? Let's say
I was about to ask them.
Really?
Yeah.
We read our minds.
Yeah.
Always.
Well-
Let's say I'm a shop owner. I'm a salon owner. What tips do you give? Like questions to ask? What to look for when you're trying to hire someone for your team?
I actually have a list of 29 questions, and I
Just
let
29 questions.
29 questions. And
Give
I
me
let,
3.
I can't. It's in print, so it's. I have my clients choose certain questions to ask them. Like, tell me a time when you were working that something went terribly wrong, and the customer was really mad, but you were able to turn it around and save that client. Not only save that client, make them a loyal, raving fan. So now you're asking them a question, that real life business experience that they have to share. So I have a series of questions. I'll have my clients choose a few and ask them when they're interviewing them. When I do an interview, when I put an ad out, instead of just sending their resume, they have to send their resume and answer 2 questions. Any one of them that don't answer the 2 questions, I just throw those. I don't even look at them because they can't follow the advice I asked them in the beginning. So give them again, they have to qualify. So ask them to answer a couple of questions. If they don't answer the questions, listen, if they're not going to follow your advice now, they're not going to follow in the future. They can't take directions now. They're not going to be able to take them in the future.
Wow.
So knowing how to find people's behavior there's a great quote, your actions speak so loud I can't hear what you're saying.
Yes.
Do they show up or are they just talking a good game?
Wow. So, not on the same topic, what are your percentage of accountability and responsibility when someone hire you, and what are their percentage and what are your percentage as a coach in
Explain exactly what you mean by
meaning
percentage.
by what your responsibility when someone hires you and what they are responsible in percentage?
Well, percentage is, I tell them, I said, listen, you're going to find out what commitment means. You're going to find out what it means to have somebody that has your back. If your commitment in yourself doesn't match my commitment in you, tell me now, and we'll part ways.
And that's it.
That's it. 100% on both sides. I got 100% commitment in
that.
them, and they need to have 100% commitment in themselves to do what it takes.
Great question. Great answer.
Yeah.
I love that. So let's talk about this book that I loved it. It's easy to read and gave me a lot of insights and helped me a lot with my team, in my organization. Knock out of the park, leadership. #1 bestseller on Amazon. So Mike, talk to me. Tell me what is coming from, the idea, the idea behind it. Sorry. Oh, here, guys. I love this book.
You know, what's interesting is you mentioned Tony Robbins again, and I saw Tony Robbins 30-plus years ago when they did it more live. When he would speak all 4 days. Now he speaks only every other day because of his voice and such. And after that, this group created a power team. And they mentioned, they go, everyone goes to Tony Robbins, they get all jacked up for about a week, and then it all levels off, and then they stop practicing all of the skills. So we created a power team that we met every month, and we would practice a lot of skills we learned. And they asked me to speak once, and I've never spoken before. They said, we're going to be doing this big event. Would you speak? I said, sure. They go, what are you going to speak about? I'm like, ABCs of success. I just threw it out there. I didn't know. I just figured, okay, I'll take a word for every letter of the alphabet, and I'll do a story behind it. And I did it, and what was great, first of all, you talk about taking the edge off, because you could imagine being the first speaking event. I was nervous because never did it before. I have this song I like that I always play when I get up. My kids used to listen to it a lot. It's Snap Attack, I've Got the Power. It just sets a good precedence. And when I got up on the stage to speak, they put the music on, and this 8-year-old kid jumped on stage and started doing breakdancing for the entire song. And we were all clapping and yelling and screaming, like totally took the edge off. The reason I share that is I kept the notes. And I always talked about writing a book one day. And then I started doing blogs, the ABCs of success. Then I started doing videos, the ABCs of success. And then my wife works for JetBlue, and she sometimes, if somebody leaves a book like that behind, she'll bring it home. And she brings some books home, and I'm like, oh, thank you very much, honey. I read them. I love them. And she brings this book home one day, and I'm like a little kid in a temper tantrum. I throw it on the ground and said, God damn it, I'm not reading that book. And she's like, what is your problem? The name of the book was The ABCs of Success, Bob Proctor. And I said, that's my book. And, of course, I had a conversation with my coach, and she says, well, you know how it works, right? She goes, well, the universe gave you ample time, Michael, to write that book. You've been talking about it for 20 years. So the universe just got tired and took it away and gave it to somebody else. So what happened was 2 years ago when the pandemic hit, and obviously with COVID, none of us were going networking and shaking hands like we used to. My coach said, hey, remember that book you were going to write one day? I said, yeah. She goes, you think now's a good time to do it? And I got to work.
Have all the time of the world.
I got to work and started writing a book. It was very enjoyable, and I had a lot of the content. And the name of the book actually came out of 2020, because at the end of the year, my coach asked me, he goes, so what did you learn about yourself this year? I thought, I'm a hell of a leader. I said, at the beginning of the year when all this stuff started hitting the fan, I told my clients, listen, there's a lot of stuff going out there. I need your 100% commitment that no matter what, we are going to have knock it out of the park years. We're going to still make serious stuff happen. Are you with me? And they were all with me. Every client stayed the entire year. We all had great years. And the name of the book came up. I said, I have an affirmation on my wall in my office. I am the master of knock it out of the park leadership. And he said, what's the book name going to be? I said, knock it out of the park leadership.
Awesome.
And there it is.
Wow, amazing. I read this book. So, guys, do you like to leave any information about any platform that you are in, Facebook or
Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, businesscoachmichaeldill.com is my website. We're updating it. So
they can find the book there too?
Yeah, find the book. The book's on Amazon. Coach Michael, Monday Morning with Coach Michael. I got a video goes out every Monday morning. Gives you the golden nugget for the week. Gives you the talking point of how to relate to your team or yourself, whatever it may be. So if you're looking for me, you'll find me.
Amazing conversation here with Coach Mike. Guys, we don't know everything. We always need someone that is ahead of us, someone that been through, overcome. We had an amazing talking here. Thank you for coming out to the Black Belt Barber podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, everybody. Follow me, again, to Convictus on Instagram. Thank you very much.
Be well.
See you guys next time.